Hi, welcome to BTS Podcast series with Varun and Arvind. Today, I have a very interesting guest, Ashish Tulsian. He's not just a guest, he's a friend, and he's the founder of Posist, founder of TMC. He's been part of a lot of other groups with us, travel partner, foodie, and the list goes on. And the kind of groups we are in, the stories we have been through, and this is going to be a very, very interesting podcast. And without further ado, Ashish sir, welcome.
Ashish sir, welcome to BTS.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wish actually we should talk about behind the scenes on the groups, Arvind, that you're talking about. But I won't steal from the intro, Ashish. We'd love to hear from your story and what Posist does and how you got started. Quick intro on Posist, please.
Yeah, so Posist started by chance. I've been a tech entrepreneur as far as I can remember. I used to run a telecom company back in the day when I started that out of my college, and I ended up investing in a restaurant, thinking it was a cool idea. Turned out that it wasn't, and I didn't know how to run a restaurant, and staff was screwing us left, right, center. So we ended up building a tech product to screw them back. Literally, that was the idea, and that hit well. So over next 1 year, while we were using our own product at our own restaurant, we incorporated Posist. So that was Jan of 12. It's been 10.5 years. And we have been focused on restaurant industry only within the spectrum of F&B. We do right from the restaurants to cafes, to sweet shops, to bakeries, to discotheques, restaurant bars, to fine dines, like the full spectrum. And then we also do a lot of F&B inside hotels, inside hospitals, inside malls, IT parks, stadiums, sports cities, and so on. So we basically transformed into a F&B or rather restaurant tech specialist. Started as a point of sale solution, which is like a billing product for the restaurant industry. Grew into a full stack platform, which does right from the billing to back end inventory control, supply chain, production, CRM, tons of integration. So it's a full stack platform now. Still running a tight ship. Continue to bootstrap. Making profits, which is nowadays, we have our season going on nowadays. The Twitter and LinkedIn, everybody is appreciating profit for a while. So I'm sure it's for a few months only. So,
He's talking the wrong things here, Varun, like profits and things like people don't speak those things. And
this is a marketing podcast. The marketers are supposed to spend money and make sure the company is perpetually in a loss, not.
That's exactly why we never opened an office in Bangalore, right? Profits don't really align with the city well.
We'd love to know the story on the marketing side of Posist. I mean, usually what we've seen is people who are doing a company for the first time, including me, and who don't come in from, who are less lucky than the likes of Arvind, who get to experience a proper marketing org. We just don't know what marketing is, right? So I'm curious to see and hear from you on the first version of marketing as Posist. What was your interpretation of that to what it is now? And how did the org chart evolve? Like, what was your first hire like? Who did they report to? And what's the marketing organization function like right now?
Mm-hmm. I think it started, let me just paint like a quick snapshot between 2012 and 2022. And I'll probably use 4 different slices, like 4 milestones. Right? Okay. So in 2012, when we started, we are selling software, that to SaaS, hosted solution to restaurant industry in India, mostly SMBs, right? This is important. And I don't know how many listeners I really hope, that they're able to relate to this. Until 10 years back, India was still not used to buying software of any kind and type. Like leave alone
Correct.
SaaS, leave alone recurring money, even one-time software sale. I remember in 2012 when we started, most of our competitors then, which were all legacy, local companies in different parts of the country, they were actually bundling their software with the hardware. So they had to sell the entire system. In fact, they used to never even talk about the software cost because people were not interested, right? So we started in that era, if I may say so. And between 2012 and 15, these 3 years, honestly, we did not even understand how to market because there's a very thin line between sales and marketing when a startup is, when you're fresh, right? You don't really understand which one is what, right? All you want is a lead or you want is a sale. And when we started, we realized that there were no channels, right? For every vertical, for every niche, we were only catering to restaurant, people and restaurant owners. To make matters worse in our case, and this is going to be important, in rest of the insights. I remember Shashank of Practo. So we kind of started at a very similar time. Shashank started 2 years before us. So we used to hang out a lot, and I used to envy them because we were doing software for the restaurants, they were doing software for the doctors, they were the B2B avatar before being the B2C Practo. And I remember that when they used to go to a doctor, they knew where to market. One doctor would recommend another doctor because they studied together and for 6 years, etc. But when I tried to use that, I just couldn't, because restaurant owner was not a persona. A lawyer could be a restaurant owner, an engineer could be a restaurant owner, a CA could be a restaurant owner. You could be a restaurant owner because you did not study and you're not, qualified or don't have a degree. And I realized that just everybody was a restaurant owner. That was one problem. Second, because just everybody was a restaurant owner, there was no cohesion in the industry. So we used to get zero referrals. Third, that there was not one thing which we were able to zero down for our ICP, if you think about it, right? Because let's say somebody who's a realtor and he opens a restaurant, right? He thinks location, right? But somebody who came from, let's say, a marketing tech background and they open a restaurant, they think about brand. And a chef is only thinking food. He doesn't give a flying F to location or anything else. So we realized that we didn't have a messaging that could relate to anyone. We didn't have a channel where all these people hang out. They don't even care about writing owner or proprietor or whatever on any channel. And most of this was not there. So this is how our marketing looked like in those days. We built a website. We started doing SEO because hope was the strategy. The second thing that we realized as soon as we started doing SEO was that there were no searches. So when there are no searches happening for your keywords, how will you do content marketing? Why will you do content marketing? So we did not have a blog. We did not start writing content at all. I think third thing what we realized was that now we need to be present wherever the industry folks are. So we started hunting trade shows and conferences because that was the closest we could get to our probable ICP. Like just show up, be in their face, and talk to them. So this is how our marketing was between 2012 and 15, which was a designer on the team who was also doing our product design and rest of the collateral, brochure design, etc. We were just having a website. We were doing SEO and all the hygiene, piece. So I generally say that between 2012 and 15, we actually just waited for the searches to go up because people were also recognizing POS, point of sale, restaurant billing software used to be our keyword because, that was the dumb, like we had to really dumb it down and say, okay, what people might be imagining. Another thing that really was very interesting in those days for us was that restaurant was geographically challenged. I mean, restaurant is a geographically challenged entity, right? Every physical restaurant is like a 3 kilometer or a 4 kilometer radius problem. All their good, bad, anything in their life comes from that. So they buy software also like that. At least that was true then. So, when searches started happening, I remember there was this, point where we realized that people are searching restaurant billing software in Chandigarh. Like, what the hell does that mean? And why does the software have to be local? And then we realized that people still had that hardware servicing component. Online software was not a thing that was occurring to them. So what we did, we actually created, this was our first SEO, or rather a growth hack, if you may say so. We actually created some 200 city pages on our website. And we created a boilerplate where we had a hero image. Hero image had to have like a monument or the popular structure of that city faded out. Like it should be visible to the, to the mind, not to the eyes. A rock garden we'll see, or a Charminar, a Hyderabad will be there. Then we had content written like a paragraph, which was again generic with certain, placeholders for keywords. For example, in Bangalore's, copy, it will read, if you want to have a meal at Kormangala, Indiranagar, Hosur, HSR, like a list of
super
things,
personalized.
Right?
Super
right?
personalized.
You have to hack that, right? And then below that, we had all the logos of that city. So we basically put like 2 interns who I think did it for entire year. Their job was to, take 4 or 5 such data points out of for each city. We created a page called, I don't remember now, billing software in Chandigarh, billing software in Pune, billing software in Ahmedabad, something like that. And we used to rank like number 1 for literally everything that you, as soon as you put a restaurant or a software keyword and you put a city to it, we will be the only ones who will be ranking. Rest of the, results were crap, of some other random world. They were not even relevant. So this was what it looked like between 2012 and 15.
Before you move on to the next phase, I'd heard long time back a phrase that, when you go down the path of entrepreneurship, you're eating glass. You chose to eat 5 different types of glasses. Like consciously not one type of glass, you chose to 5 different, the way that you were describing. And you also forgot one important thing. The cloud or internet connectivity at that point of time also didn't exist.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Correct. Even if you go to our website today, what was our USP? Our USP was and continues to be that we are a product that works on a browser. We don't install anything in your system, but it continues to work offline.
Yeah, so that's one more kind of glass that you chose to eat. Strategically, now it makes sense. But
I have stories where somebody bought our product we used to sell for 12,000 rupees per restaurant per year. I don't know why. But somebody paid us in like one meeting back in 2012. And our sales guy was like, on the moon. He was like, this is crazy. I closed the deal in like 1 hour. And on the day of deployment, our team reached there and the guy said, where is the hardware? And I bola ki, you are supposed to have the computer system or a POS system. We'll do the software. The guy literally bugged our happiness. He said, you charged me 12,000 rupees for the software. And we are like, what? You thought that we are charging you 12,000 rupees for the hardware? He said, of course, software is always free. I never bought Tally. I never bought Windows. I never bought Microsoft Office. Who pays for software? It's only the hardware that I pay for. And we are like, oh man, we are up against the wall. Like this is going to be a long journey.
No, so it was true. See, I think even in Zoho, we started selling outside the world, outside India first. US, UK, never India was a market because in India, it's never SaaS. It was SaaS software. They'll be like, oh, you are in Chennai. Why don't you come down here, Delhi? Come here.
Yeah, that's
it was always hard to sell in India.
So then how did the marketing part of the company evolve after 2015?
I think 2015 was the inflection point. I think 2 events happened. One, Zomato, Swiggy, Food Panda, all of these, Uber Eats was not there, but Zomato, Swiggy was born. There was a company called Tiny Owl. So 2015 was the year of hyper-local deliveries and ordering and all of that.
Dunzo coming into picture, everyone's creating hyper-local.
And what we saw as a trend was, because we were very good at SEO, we also saw the trends going up. So suddenly our searches went up. And we kept on wondering that what's happening? Are we becoming smarter? Have we done something great at SEO? But then we realized, no, the average searches are skyrocketing. Like we could really see that curve. And as soon as that happened, that's when we also realized that, okay, probably market is suddenly getting educated, about it. Also, the average age of the restaurateur changed. After 2015, many young restaurateurs started to come in. Before 2015, I think average age of a restaurateur in the country was 50.
Wow.
And after 2015, between 2015 and 2020, the average age has fallen to 30.
And I think it's still reducing. Like I see a lot of hipster cafes and all that. It's falling actually.
So all this was happening. And 2015 is when, because we picked up this trend, that's exactly when I remember, January of 15 is when we said, hey, we should actually start writing a blog and we should do content marketing. And again, content marketing was still not ready. I mean, the only example I remember in those days, which was still the OG and the relevant example, was HubSpot. Like I did not have an Indian or a company closer to me who I could benchmark and say, hey, you know what, these guys have cracked content marketing in the B2B niche vertical space. Let's copy that. So we had to also design our own playbook. So we started a blog, and that's when we started looking for content writers. And it took us good 6 months banging our head to the wall because, we realized, and that's, I think it's true for India, probably other developing nations might be very similar, is that anybody who knows English believes that they can write. And that actually makes the job of hiring a content writer, leave alone content marketer, we'll come to that. But hiring a content writer is super difficult in the market, not because people are bad, because there are so many people who just know English and believe that they can write, that you have to really go through that labyrinth. So we did that. But I think one insight that came out in those 6 months, and I think we hired 5 or 6 people who we also fired like within 15 days, 30 days. And finally, the one who stuck was, a girl we hired, and she was an engineer. And when I asked her in the interview that, why do you want to do content writing? She said, I want to be a novelist. I said, oh, so it's not English. She said, no, I'm a convent grad, but I'm an engineer. And I said, but novelist is fiction. She said, I don't know anything about the restaurant industry. It's still fiction to me. So I said, okay, that's not bad. And then we started with that, right? So she basically started our journey. What we did is that when we were writing our blog, I was still not very sure that if searches will continue to go up. Second thing I wasn't sure about was the persona piece that I talked about, that who will read this content? Why will they read it? How many people will be reading about branding? How many people will read about restaurant industry? And third, I was very, very sure nobody wants to read about Posist. If we, blow our own trumpet, nobody cares. So what we did is, because of these 3 things, we said, 1, we don't need to worry about clickbait. Let's write very, very high quality content so that anyway, nobody's going to read. If ever anybody reads, let's make sure that they stick to it. 2, we didn't know what to speak because we don't know, there was no strong restaurant owner persona. So we said, hey, why not we do this? We pick out a topic, and to write content, we always interview minimum 3 restaurateurs on that topic and also quote them in the content. Now, this is the horse's mouth, right? Restaurant owner talking, restaurant owner listening, and we only do rest of the talking. And we also wanted to crack distribution, because after writing content, you realize one thing, that like, how do you distribute it now? Like, who's reading it? Where to find that distribution? And because our persona was so fuzzy, so what we did is, okay, the minimum thing that will happen is that if Varun Shoor is the restaurateur, other restaurateur friends must be on his social media because of keeping an eye on him, envy, jealous, camaraderie, whatever, right? So if we quote Varun Shoor somewhere, and if he shares this content because he likes his face, everybody is just going to get intrigued and click on it. So this was our distribution strategy. And this also became our content strategy. This also made sure that our content was absolutely crisp, tight, primary research, because you can't bullshit your way into calling the restaurants. And we also, when we said that we are not talking about Posist at all, and we are not going very, very technical, why do we call it the Posist blog? So we call it the Restaurant Times. So if you search the Restaurant Times today, we are actually the rated top 5 industry resources globally. And today we see like some massive traffic. Like we are doing 3.5 million page views per year, all organic. But I remember when we I think it took us first 3 years between 2015 to 18. It took us 3 years to cross 100,000 page views. And I think I declared it a success because I wasn't sure if restaurant owners are going to read so much. But I think just to wrap this content piece, I think another thing that we did at, for Restaurant Times, which actually worked really well. And when I talk to entrepreneurs who talk to me about content marketing, and this is the place where I see the dip in their, enthusiasm, is when, they want to know, how did it become like 3.5 million, or how can they overnight, become that? And I basically talk about this piece that we were so resigned on the fact that anybody's gonna read it ever, that I said that I'm not going to look at page views or visitors as the metric. I'm only going to look at 2 metrics. 1, average time on site. 2, repeat users. That's all. And literally for next 3.5 years at least, like our next intervention was at like in 2018 mid, but for next 3.5 years, we only looked at these 2 metrics. We did not care for number of visitors, number of views, page views, etc. In fact, we told our content team always that please write extremely dry headlines. It should not ever catch fancy of a commoner. Talk about things which should only be visible to a restaurateur or a chef or a manager or somebody in the restaurant space. Everybody else should feel like they should be blinded. They should not even feel like clicking it, because if they click it, my analytics will go haywire, and I'll keep wondering who are these people who are coming to the website, and my lead traffic is still not going on. So that Restaurant Times remains like the largest source and channel of leads till today.
Nice. People talk about now creating like a media company inside your SaaS company. This is exactly what you did, right? So you created like a brand which is different from Posist, which is doing thought leadership. So it's not just people coming for Posist content, they're coming for thought leadership content. And they see Posist as the one which is delivering the thought leadership.
It's interesting you said media, right? Because this is exactly how we ran it. And, Restaurant Times is a 4-people team. They still run it like a media house. So Restaurant Times team has a different agenda. And we never and this is extremely important, we never attributed any lead generation quota to them or any responsibility. We basically, Restaurant Times runs absolutely independently, and whatever happens as a function of the traffic. So what we did is we did a posist.com/Restaurant Times. So and Restaurant Times has like some 3,500 articles. None of them talks about Posist. 0. The only Posist they see is the Restaurant Times powered by Posist. That's all. There's nothing else. And the URL.
So apart from content, I know Posist does events really well. Being kind of like having observed your company over the years and also learned from Sakshi's sessions at SaaSBOOMi. I know you do events really well, and that's one area that I would like to talk about. But before we move on, there's another interesting evolution, again, coming from being an observer, is the evolution on the ICP level for Posist from the SMB to enterprise. I think this was also one of the key inflection points on the marketing side of it, and very strategic, so to speak, as well. I think the audience would love to know more about this because you initially focused very heavily on SMBs. It was an SMB company through and through. And over the recent years has evolved more towards being an enterprise company. So we'd love to know more about that as well.
So yeah, I think we it looks like that it did enterprise over last few years because you see it only when it matures. But if I paint that picture, I think we started as India SMB, and we went large enterprise global. And large enterprise definition is minimum $1 million ARR, sort of account. For us, the accounts qualification is minimum a $250 million plus revenue company. So this was a non-linear transition. It is as non-linear as it can be, right? And why most of the entrepreneurs, like me, they start with India and believe that you can go global. I think because somehow it looks linear. I mean, it is so stupid. If I had
We'll
to
also talk about that.
Yeah, I will never do that again, right? I mean, in fact, I tell a lot of people that, anybody who tells me that eventually I will find my nirvana in US, I'm like, boss, please, either do that today or don't do it at all. Like, don't this up. And then people will be like, but you guys did it. I said, just because I survived doesn't mean that I did it right. So, but I think India SMB was like first 3 years of our existence, and then we started going India mid-market for another 2 years. So these were like first 5 years of Posist existence, very, very India-centric. And then after India mid-market, as soon as we tried to hit India enterprise, we realized there is no enterprise in India. And true enterprises were not there. I mean, there were few, there were a handful, like there were 10, and that's it. And that's exactly when we said, okay, if we have to jump from here, and if we go outside of the country, why will we start from SMB? Now we know, now we have the product, now we have the knowledge, right? We would rather go, to another country, spend time on the ground, understand, how our product fits. And if we find a PMF, then we'll actually start at least from mid-market and go towards enterprise. So this was the second leg of our journey where we started mid-market, international, and first international was Singapore and Dubai. And then Singapore, of course, did not work out. So technically it was only Dubai. And then, it took another couple of years for us to graduate and go towards a large enterprise account outside of India. So in last 2 years actually, in pandemic time, we have just consolidated all our effort towards large enterprise. So now it has emerged out as if it is a full enterprise, and now we only do enterprise. We have basically, let go of all other ICPs.
Was it accidental, or intentional, this entire pivot?
Absolutely intentional, man. Like as intentional as it can be. In fact, on an unrelated, but I'm sure, it drives a lot of curiosity is, honestly, this is the number one reason we did not raise VC capital. Because at least 4 times in our journey, we had a term sheet. Thankfully, we got that without, kind of going out in the market and pitching. Some VC somewhere met us, loved us, said, okay. But each time, actually, that VC, for all good reasons of their own, they wanted us to focus on the PMF we had at that moment. And while we agreed with them in principle that, okay, this is working, let's scale it, 100x. We also, were intentional about like upping the game because, for us, we could clearly see that, hey, you know what? We have cracked India mid-market heavily. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And like, no, but we actually can take this to enterprise global. And they were like, enterprise global, no, let's in next 5 years do this. And each time we said no to that, not out of arrogance, but the intention that we wanted to be like one of the top companies in the world in the restaurant tech, and that is what we are trying. So it was as intentional as it can be. And each time we had to let go of a PMF market. You have to understand that, SMBs is great cash flow, by the way, right? They suck the blood out of you somewhere else, but it's great cash flow, right? It's super secure. Okay. You can lose $1 million client. To lose $1 million in SMB revenue, I need to lose like 1,000 clients, which will never happen, right? So it comes with its own, dynamics. But I think we had to let go at each step, and it couldn't happen without strong intention.
Actually, I think I know this story, but I really wanted to bring this out in this podcast, right? So you initially touched upon the ICP being a biggest challenge for you, like everybody, your target audience persona, like anybody can be a restaurateur, and the ICP and targeting that niche. I know this one particular campaign which you did in doing account-based marketing, and where I think creativity was the key winner. I would want the audience here to also know that story, and like I was super impressed when I heard about it. So go for it.
Yeah, I think this is when I hear account-based marketing today. Of course, we do that as account-based marketing now for enterprises. But this was the SMB time, and I think this is how crazy one needs to go at times. So here's, I told you that ICP problem, persona problem, etc. Right? Reaching out to restaurant owners was like the biggest trouble. Selling was not that big of a trouble, and we clearly figured that we had a great PMF with restaurant owners, and I'm still talking about SMBs, like single standalone restaurants, 3 or 4 restaurant, type of sort of people. We figured that every time we talk to the owner, we like have a fit, sale happens. But talking to the owner, reaching out was a big challenge. We also figured another thing, which was theft. So our product primarily, what it did is that apart from billing software or inventory control or the utility, we did anti-theft. And this is a term that we coined because restaurant theft is a big problem. Everybody sees those placards at the restaurant which says, if you don't get the bill, your order is free. If you don't get the bill, please call on this number, right? Imagine the gravity of that statement. A business has just declared right at the counter that my employee, my teammate is not reliable. Can you be vigilant on my behalf as a customer, right? If I was an employee at PVR, I would not want to stand behind such a placard. But imagine a brand has to do that because theft in the restaurants was normalized. Like it was a thing that everybody knew, right? And we built this product which was not predicting theft, but it was basically catching theft. It was flagging that, Ashish has just cancelled a kitchen order ticket, or he has cancelled 2 beers. This might be a theft. He might not have really cancelled it or something like that. Now when we went out selling this product, our problem was that our team said, whenever we go, we are showing the demo to the owner and the manager, and even the cashier is in the meeting because owner wants them to see it. We don't know how to broach the subject because we are technically talking about this manager and cashier being the thieves. And how do we broach the subject? Second problem, which was actually even more grave, was that consistently people said that whenever we broach this subject with the owners separately, owners are offended in a very interesting way. It's like if they agree that theft is happening at the restaurant, it also makes them look bad as business owners, right? So they agree, but in a way, no, it doesn't happen at my place. Like it happens. So after our conversations, I figured that, okay, restaurant theft is like sex. It's happening everywhere in the world, but nobody is going to agree that it's happening at my home. At our place, we don't do that. At our place, we all, So we wrote a comic book. It was actually not a comic book. So one day we wrote a blog. We were talking about that. What are the genius ways in which restaurant staff commits theft? And our content team, they started talking to our technical support team and implementation team to get the stories from the trenches. And we basically talked about like some genius ways in which staff commits theft, which restaurant owners can't catch even if they see it. Like you can't question it. We talked to a couple of restaurant owners about it. Their minds were blown and they were like, I didn't know this. And these were seasoned restaurateurs. So that got us thinking that if this guy doesn't know this, which we thought he should, probably this knowledge needs to be out there. So we wrote a blog. And the blog turned out to be, we basically talked about 10 ways and 10 pages, right? So these 10 pages were like 2,500, 3,000 word content. And we were like, restaurant owners are never going to read this. It's not happening. So I said, okay, why not we create a pictorial representation of that so that nobody needs to read like 1,000 word per article. So we took like 2 months. We went crazy. We went to drawing board. We did character development and all of that. And we wrote a comic book. Comic book turned out to be very, very well. And I felt that, online, if we distribute it, we still don't have the direct email ID to send it to. So it is going to get lost in oblivion. What is the best way to make sure that restaurant owner reads it? So we got a comic book physically printed, very high quality printing. And why high quality? Because we wanted to make sure that whoever gets it takes it very seriously. Like they should feel, that this is a solid book. So we did that. Now, when you start content marketing, you feel that writing content is the biggest problem. Only after writing content, you realize distribution is a bigger problem.
It's the biggest problem.
After making this book, we were like, dude, like, how do we distribute this now? Now, one of the obvious sort of channel was that, okay, our sales team should carry it in every demo. But then we started wondering that how do we, target restaurant owners who are like, how do we use it as a marketing lead gen? And here comes, what we did. So we basically figured that we don't know restaurant owner's name. We only know their restaurant's name. And if we actually send this book physically to a restaurant, managers and cashiers will never let the owners get their hands on it, right? So what we did is that a lot of psychological, warfare. So we scraped data from Zomato, all the restaurant names. That's exactly what was available. And cost for two was also available, right? So it's an anti-theft product. It will only appeal to people who are making a certain level of money. So cost for two, 1,500 and above, we scraped data of all the dine-in restaurants. We placed, again, we pulled two people from a random call center. We just told them that, hey, you need to call all these restaurants on their public line and ask them, owner ka naam bataiye. So when you ask owner's name, funnily, a restaurant staff is never going to share their number, but they will tell the name. No, they will say, yeah, Arvind Parthiban is the owner. So write down the name. Then tell them that there is a parcel for sir. Please give his mobile number. If they give, it's okay. If they don't worry. Reconfirm the address that is written on Zomato, because we want to make sure that it's not the wrong address. They did that. We did it for 1,000 restaurants in like next 30 days. Owner's name, restaurant's address confirmed. In very, very few cases, we got the number, but it was not valuable for us. Now comes the part how to send it. So we basically created a covering letter. Now Zomato has all this data, right? What is the cuisine? What are the top things? What is the best item? Cost for two, area, etc. So we wrote a covering letter like this with placeholders, which said, hey Varun, what you have done with Punjabi Rasoi is brilliant. In Gurgaon, Sector 29, very few people have cracked North Indian Mughlai cuisine the way you have done. We know that your butter chicken and dal makhani is doing great. At a cost for two for $1,500, you are killing it. Basically created this letter and bubble wrapped the book. We bought envelopes which are used by the government. Jali wala andar jisme, right? Brown color envelopes, like scary looking large envelopes.
Did you also send them using India Post?
Dude, yeah,
yes,
it gets better. So we basically got these envelopes, non-printed, and we put this in. We got this wax seal made. We put that wax seal on it. We had a bad handwritten name and address, on each envelope. We created a stamp in red color called confidential at 3 places. At the top, it said notice, and it was sent with registered post. And this campaign was such where staff used to take it like this and used to just go to the restaurant owner saying, dude, this is yours.
I'm not touching this.
They're not going to open it.
We have examples where one restaurant owner in Delhi once met me in a party, and somebody like randomly introduced. It was not a restaurant party. It was like some friend's party, and this guy appeared and somebody introduced me saying, oh, Ashish runs Posist, and this guy runs, this restaurant called Prankster. You know Prankster, right? And
yeah.
So he said, this guy runs Prankster. And that guy looked at me like, so other guy said, no, you must know Ashish. Usne bola, no, you wait. He said, dude, you guys send a book, right? I said, yes. What happened? He said, you guys my Euro trip. I said, what do you mean? He said, I was on a Euro trip for last 12 days. The day I landed, this appeared at my restaurant. My manager sent me a picture on WhatsApp saying, sir, there is some notice that has come. He said, I don't know what I have it.
Can't get the manager to open it.
Correct. And he said, I told the manager, don't open it because it had a wax seal. So he said, I came back. I, did that, heated the knife so that I opened it so that if it is a notice, I can,
put it back.
Put it back and see it.
And send it back to the, registered post office that, okay, nahi mila idhar koi, right? Something like that. So it went to that level. But I'll tell you the success of this. We were showered with leads. We made a direct revenue from this campaign of 2.5 crore in next 4 months. And after that, we stopped counting. The campaign is still today on. We don't now send it this way. We carry it. We created a call to action, by the way, on that book. It's a very witty book. I'll share it someday with you. But we created a call to action on that. We took a number from Exotel, like a missed call number, and we said these are the 10 ways in which restaurant staff commits theft. It was not a Posist advertisement, of course, right? So we said we also have a book of solutions. Give a missed call on this number to get it.
Wow.
Nice.
And we never had a book of solutions, by the way. Solution was Posist. So.
This has to be one of the most incredible marketing stories that I've come across.
We called that book the ThugTales of Restaurantpur. It's a Gangs of Wasseypur, inspired name. Our conference room in Delhi, in our office, has a Gangs of Wasseypur poster. So when we were naming this, so that was ThugTales.
Wow.
No, exactly the reason why I brought this up to this in this podcast is, right, like, most of the times when I work with content marketers, they are worried about number of content, how many blogs to be written in a week, right? Like the wrong metrics.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the entire purpose of content marketing is to bring that kind of what pain point, and it should be relatable and going extra mile and bringing creativity. I think these are the things I wanted to probably
also
ask Ashish, right?
I think also one thing, absolutely agree. And one more thing that I can add to it is, in general, I think my understanding of marketing, or even for that matter, advertising also, is that nobody in this world wants to talk about you, your brand, your company. Why are you there to change? Nobody gives why are you trying to change the world, right? Everybody is willing to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
People want to listen about them. They want to talk about themselves, right? So best advertisements in the world actually talk about their users, not pain, their life.
Correct.
Right? So one is that it's a pain driven thing. मैं पहले बहुत परेशान रहता था, फिर मेरे साथ ये हुआ और अब मैं खुश हूँ, right? But other thing is that when you're showing and depicting their life in general, they actually relate, right? ThugTales was not even giving a solution.
Correct.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It was just talking about their pain, and they related super hard, right? They had no other choice.
I mean, I'm just imagining myself as a restaurant owner, I would never forget that thing. Like, as a brand, I would know Posist forever. Like, it's just so good.
Correct.
There are these few pieces of content. I mean, you can have a witty billboard which people might recall, but this is on next level because it's triggering all kinds of emotions when I'm going through that. I'll never forget those emotions when I have that envelope in my hands, when the registered post guy comes over, tries to get my sign. And in India, business owners fear all of these India Post. Like, if a MyGate notification comes in that it's India Post, I'm like, okay, what's in it now?
I think it's also really about going that extra mile, right? That if you're not, trust me, this entire process of putting that wax seal and doing this, it itself was taxing.
I can imagine finding a supplier and all that. Phenomenal, incredible story, Ashish, on this one. I think I'm going to tell people about this a lot. So not only is ThugTales popular on the restaurant, I think it's even as a marketing story, it's so good. I really want to get...
We heard this story when we are 5 rounds down, and imagine how we have been laughing about it.
I can imagine. Ashish and the stories, they go a long way. I really want to get the events piece out, because there was this event which happened in Pragati Maidan. I've forgotten the name. I know it was related to restaurant industry. Ahar. Yes. Among that, I saw photographs, I think on your Instagram, of the Posist post, which was world class over there. And I think while that event was ongoing, you were traveling in US. And this was one of the more critical events for the restaurant industry over here, and it was executed brilliantly. So that really made me usually even at 5-6 million ARR, you would expect the business owner to be key part of the events, but you have just got the playbook so right that the team's so much more capable on executing this, and it showed. So I'm really curious on what is the secret sauce. I mean, yes, you can say, you have the right people and all, but I'm really curious on how does that work? Let's say Ahar is coming up. How do you go about planning for Ahar?
Yeah, I think difficult one because there's no silver bullet there. I think it's the honest reply is that I think the process has been super organic. Let me put it that way, and the organic nature of that process, has made us, absolutely pros at doing events. But I think if I go back a little, and I would rather, address you asked that question before, Arvind interjected with that ThugTales story, but then uh, the why of the events actually is what drives our entire event playbook. And you will also find some insights on why you saw what you saw, like how it felt, great, superbly executed, etc. I think one thing is that physical events, I don't know why, are not popular amongst especially tech startups. Like I fail to understand that. I see this one problem that TechCrunch doesn't write about that. Paul Graham doesn't write about that. Probably that's the reason. The day Paul Graham or a TechCrunch will say, "Oh, events are, is the game," suddenly everybody will go towards that. But I think for us, the way we look at event is that events basically are a place where not only you are physically visible in front of the customer, the kind of trust that can happen. See, for me, especially in B2B, selling is all about trust. Even in B2C, I mean, why celebrities, why a Shah Rukh Khan is actually selling a Santro, right? Everybody knows that Shah Rukh Khan doesn't drive a Santro and is not using a Santro, right? But when a brand hires Shah Rukh Khan in B2C context, right, that's credibility, right? A regular buyer believes that if somebody has hired Shah Rukh Khan and spent 100 crores on advertising, must be a good product, right? So that's one signal. Events is exactly that signal into your brand. So when we look at events, we don't look at it as a lead gen problem. We attribute 50% of our event cost straight to branding. That allows us a lot of room. That allows us to spend a little, not worry about conversion, not worry about, oh shit, we didn't get the right leads or we didn't get enough leads. It's not the volume, it's basically the quality. And that also allows us to look at our booth, our branding, and what kind of opportunities we create in the event as a long tail branding problem, and not really a lead gen problem. And that is something which is very, very important. We perfected that over years, and I can actually use perfect because now as a company we breathe that. Like that occurs very, very naturally to everyone in our team. Second thing is that event is also a place where you can actually become anything, and that's my favorite part of events in general, right? See, when you are participating in an event, and let's say Oracle is your co-participant who's also your competitor, is Oracle going to bring their office building to the event? No. In event, everybody has to put a booth. You can be $100 billion company or a $10 million company. Both have to put a booth. And booth size projects who you are. You don't need to say anything. So for example, if I put a booth which is as large as Oracle, it may cost me a bomb, but that bomb is not going to be proportionate to the projection I'm making. Right? If I put a booth for, let's say, $20,000 in US versus, $100,000, $100,000 is actually probably the topmost range in which $100 billion company is participating. Yeah, and $20,000 is the price of the booth in which $1 million company is participating, right? So in $80,000, I can oscillate, in any direction. Now your booth has to also look, or your event has to look the part that you are trying to play. If you're trying to, get $1 million deal, you can't look like $2,000. You have to look like 10 million, and then somebody will, actually come to you. Sale is not going to happen from there. Right? Third thing is that understanding this basic thing about events, that events is really about repeat visibility. Right? So when we do an event, let's say we go to a new country and we look at a trade show, we immediately sign up for 3 years. And by that, what I don't mean that we pay them for 3 years, but mentally we are signing up for 3 years, right? Because we know that in year 1, nothing is going to happen. My fondest hope is that you grow old in that market and you create familiarity with co-participants, with people who are walking that aisle. There are these regular people, right? People who go to SaaSter every year in the SaaS space.
Yeah.
They'll be the same people, right? Because they are enthusiasts,
Correct.
they are progressive, they want to know what's happening. Similarly, in every industry. So when you go to a restaurant show, so today, we actually find, recently, you know what happened in US? I was in Dallas, and a guy walked up to me. It was a conference. I was speaking there, and we were also one of the sponsors. There was not even a booth. This guy walks up to me, and he says, "Hey, I'm from Israel." Heavy Israeli accent. I said, "Okay." He said, "We know you guys very, very well." This was, by the way, Domino's Israel. And I said, "Wow, like, how do you know us?" He said, "Oh, I've seen you over the last 4 years at different shows in 4 different countries." And I was like, "Oh man," right? Now, this is intangible that you actually have to look for.
Correct.
Because this is trust, this is credibility. I'll tell you my India experience, first 3 years. And this was a wisdom, actually, honestly, we learned in India in first 3 years. 2012, we participated in a lot of shows in India. In 2013, we did few of them, like the main ones, because money was, still we were trying to optimize that. I remember in 2014, the show, Varun, that you mentioned, Ahar in Pragati Maidan, this is the largest show, in India. A guy walks up to us, and he was a restaurant owner, like in some tier 2, but a big one in tier 2, like a famous legend. And this guy said, "Hey, you know what?" And he kept on looking at our stall like this, and he said, "You guys have grown really well." And this is 2014. And I was like, he said, "We are going to buy your product. We are here to talk about that today." I said, "Why did you say that we have grown so well?" He said, "I saw you in 2012. Then I saw you in 2013. Now this is 2014. Now I think we should look at you." It was a shocker, because I was like,
The size of the booth?
No, it was basically, so size of the booth probably was an indicator year on year that we are growing, right? The guy had no idea what's happening, behind the scenes, right? So this was one learning. Second was that I could clearly see that this guy was an OG. He's walking this show for 15 years. He sees so many fly-by-night operators. He sees so many people who don't appear next year, that for him to really put his trust on you, you have to grow old in the industry. And if he sees you year on year, and he also sees some sort of incremental progress, that hits. And that happened, right? Our shows conversions year on year, kept on going up. So I think events, one is that you have to create longevity in the event. You need to make sure that you look the part. If you're not investing, like when Indian companies, especially, and I'm using the word Indian companies because it really pisses me off, outside of the country, in every show, whenever I see Indian booths, Indian company booths, you can really recognize it, because somewhere we don't have a great relationship with spending on, design, quality, all of that, especially in marketing, right? We'll put whatever we want in the product. We'll put all the heart and soul in sending the people and the sales and massaging the client and account management and whatnot.
Correct.
But we will not, let's say, invest in a great suit. Our people will not be like the best dressed and absolutely groomed. Right? So those kind of things are extremely important, because when you are standing at an event at a booth,
you are the website. You are the website. Like, that's a comparison, right? It's a physical manifestation of your website. It's like a store. Yeah,
it is.
Exactly.
I'll tell you, it is even more grave. It is a physical manifestation of your office.
Of your work culture, of your company's brand.
I can forgive you on your website. I will never forgive you on your office experience.
No, I think it's a mindset. See, I think people are okay to spend $100 or $200 or even $500 for a click, but the moment you say events, right?
Correct.
It's looked at as if it is not. It's actually a cheaper way of lead gen. So we need to have that. And why are you okay for spending so much on Google, and why not for events? Like, the complete strategy has been changed.
Correct.
Today, physical events is much more cheaper and efficient than spending in Google Ads.
That's because digital spends. That's because
the roof.
Online bidding or war has gone through. No, I think, Arvind, and that's why I said that 50% attribution to branding goes a very, very long way.
That's very profound.
Yeah. And second is that when we do an event for first year in a country or a place where we have not been there, we actually hold the lead data in our system for next 3 years.
Correct.
The attribution of lead is over next 3 years. And after the end of 3 years, I will actually tell you what's the right CAC, because you have to also understand the nature of event. Nature of event is actually literally like what you get from a Google paid ad versus Facebook ad. Facebook ad is like an event. People are scrolling through life randomly. You appear, they're like, okay, this is interesting. They click, they send the lead. Zero buying intent, right? While Google is a search intent. The guy searched for you, you appeared, sent you a lead, very high probability. In events, people are like those, Bollywood movies कि वो बंदा पहाड़ में गया है और वो promise करके आया लड़की से कि मैं शादी करूंगा और फिर वापस आके शहर में चला गया और वापस नहीं आया, right? It's like exactly like that, right? In events, people will come, sit with you, stand with you, promise, curse their existing vendor, existing tech, this and that, and the guy disappears. And people are like, what happened? We had such a great bonding. Yeah, in that zone, he felt that. He went back to his life and got like overwhelmed with all the challenges that he has on a day-to-day basis. So you need to keep reinforcing this idea, and then only probably something will happen.
I think the split between the brand marketing and the lead gen, like that attribution, for me is a very profound learning, because we always struggle during the days. Like, is this a brand initiative? Is it a lead gen? We eventually started off with brand, tilted to lead gen, and we could never do justice because you don't get the conversion at that moment.
Right.
And I think it's then calculating that over 3 years, I think that's where it really starts to add up.
Another point I would like to add to is, I focused a lot on the trade shows and expos. The second category of the events that we do 2 categories of events. One is trade shows and expos, and the second is conferences. In conferences, our playbook is a little different. In conferences, we will always take like a, partner, sponsor sort of badge. We will not even take the booth. In fact, we let go of the booth. We tell them that we don't need a booth, because conference is a place where people are coming to listen to the speakers and to network. Booth is a side activity. Like there will be 10, 20 booths on the side. And booth is really about selling. And in conferences, what we have seen, at least what has worked for us, is that sales don't happen there. Introductions happen and networking happens. But how do you leverage that branding with networking? So how we, and I'm just bearing the secret, at least our playbook internally, is that when we look at a conference, we look at the speaker lineup. Speaker lineup has to have our target audience. CIOs, CEOs, COOs of the brands that we want to have. Let's say if a conference has 50 speakers, our team is going to circle down each of these 50. We will sponsor this. We will ask them to put our name somewhere, like in a very technology partner or like some prominent location. We will tell them that we don't need the booth. If I'm speaking there, I'm not going to speak about Posist. Every conference as a sponsor will tell you that you can make a 15-minute presentation on Posist. We never do that. We make sure that it's a 15-minute presentation on an industry topic, talking about their life and not mentioning Posist at all. I generally don't do PowerPoints. I speak. So while I'm speaking, at the background, there's a Posist logo. That's all. For 15 minutes, people keep looking at Posist and keep listening to me. And I'm talking about them. I'm not even talking about technology, by the way. I have delivered sessions which did not even touch upon technology level on Posist, right? I was just talking about them. And our team's target is actually to talk to these 50 speakers, because now you are a sponsor in the conference. Your CEO is speaking. You have a right to go congratulate them on their panel, introduce your company by saying ki, like pointing towards the stage, we are Posist, and the rest of it flows from there, because the speaker suddenly is a little more receptive to it. There are times when people will say ki, oh, do you have a booth here? Like, no, this is not like, we're not selling here. We would love to have a demo with you later on.
Yeah.
And it has hit 10 on 10 for us over the years.
And there's another important point.
Nice.
The speakers are usually key decision makers.
Absolutely.
Your audience might not be filled with decision makers, but the speakers are usually key decision makers.
We have actually taken out business from supposedly flop conferences in India, especially. Conference was called a flop because audience did not happen. Conference said 700 people will come, 300 people came. People were beating them black and blue because people had booths. We were only interested in 50 speakers. They came. We killed it. We didn't care what the audience is. So whatever happens from audience for us in a conference is literally bonus. Like we don't even care. Whatever networking we are going to do on the floor, it's all serendipity and bonus.
I think we have a lot of useful nuggets over here. Arvind, are you excited about the rapid fire round?
Okay, first I'll go easy. Right, which is your favorite restaurant amongst your customers?
Okay,
it's in
India, Bombay Brasserie. In Dubai, Crescent. They got a Michelin star just now.
Okay. All right. So, and what is your pet peeve when it comes to food? I know you're a foodie.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean by pet peeve when it comes to food?
Like, what do you not like about food?
Like restaurant food,
like restaurant food, food scene, food culture,
scenes, anything. Yeah.
Quick rapid fire. Right?
Yeah.
What do you hate about like maybe a recent trend?
I hate fusion for the sake of it. Like people putting in pasta in a taco and putting something else on top of it, giving it a quirky name. I'm like why quirk for no reason, right? Just call it a taco. No, I mean I get it. Don't call it something else.
What do you? I have a rapid fire question. What are your thoughts on the introduction of mozzarella cheese on the Indian street food scene?
Oh man, I think I'm more worried about the mayonnaise on Indian street food. That's absolutely crappy. That's vegetable oil, and I don't even know what people are doing.
The composition of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think food tech. Everybody are running away from food tech industry, and like if someone were to start a startup in the food tech space, what would be your one advice?
Don't.
Okay, what is a trend you foresee in this space?
No, I think food tech is a misnomer. But if you're talking about doing anything around restaurants or food in general, I believe that cloud kitchen and restaurant and this hybrid piece as a trend, we are not even scratching the surface of it. One nugget I can give you is, which blew my mind as well. Burger King last year did $4 billion worth of sales in the US, out of which 2.4 billion was drive-through. So Burger King sold $2.4 billion worth of product through drive-through only in the US, when we don't even have drive-through here, and so many countries don't have drive-throughs, right? So when I look at some of these trends, I think we are just scratching the surface. I think anybody who's starting up either in the restaurant or cloud kitchen or even in technology, I think it's going to accelerate in bigger way.
Okay. One last question as a TMC founder and DPC member, right? What's the biggest or the largest bill you have paid in a party?
Oh, 7.5 lakh.
Oh my God.
Was that your wedding?
That's nothing, not a wedding.
But this is the episode that will make audience hungry for sure. Shameless plug on liking and subscribing. Please do like and subscribe to SaaSBOOMi BTS. We work really hard to bring out the background stories, amazing ThugTales from the Indian SaaS founders, stories that make the companies or break the companies, so to speak, on a very honest platform. Ashish, this has been very, very helpful. Thank you so much for taking the time out to share and being very frank and honest. I know I'll be taking a lot of snippets from this one and sharing them. I have more stories to tell. Thank you so much for
thank you guys.
Wearing it all.
Absolutely enjoyed it. And for the audience, by the way, in case it's relevant, if anybody wants a copy of ThugTales, just maybe tag me on Twitter, and I'll send it your way.
Awesome, Ashish.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.